building a work ethic and learning how to be okay with less than perfect, which is super important to me. That's like one of my favorite things. Apparently perfectionism is like a thing for you.
I've just always struggled with perfectionism my whole life because I grew up being pretty good at the things I was good at and never really progressed because I wasn't challenged very much to do any better. Now I have this idea of perfectionism that I really struggle with because it makes me not want to work on things out of the fear of rejection and the fear of it not being good enough, not just for myself, but for the other people that I want to listen to it and, you know, people I care about. I want them to enjoy the music I create. So I'm wondering, like, is that something that you ever struggled with? And is that something that you feel like you've been able to overcome? Or do you have a sort of routine or mentality that helps you like combat those thoughts and like allows you to just work on stuff every day and be content with just having the privilege to make music?
Dude, that's a fantastic question. Also, I appreciate your honesty about that. That's really dope. You know, at least in this corner of my life, musically, somehow I don't have that problem anymore. And I think it's because I've released a lot of music and I've been afforded the support of people like you guys, honestly. But at a certain point, that was definitely a problem. I think I went to music school, and in music school, definitely it's a thing. You know, it was the first time I was ever in a room with people who were not only better than me, but like 90% of them were better than me. You know, I was like a freshman, I was new, and I had come from San Diego, which didn't have a very big like music scene. So like I was one of the best piano players of my age group in the whole city. And then I go to music school where everyone's the best in their town. And then I was like, oh, I ain't shit. But I think like around my sophomore or junior year, I kind of developed this really thick skin of just like, I knew what I liked and I felt so connected to it that I didn't give a fuck anymore about what anyone else was doing. I remember like all my classmates started playing other things. They started playing more odd meter stuff, more modern stuff, contemporary stuff that I just wasn't into. When I was in college, the stuff I was into was like Oscar Peterson, Benny Green, Phineas Newborn Jr., jazz pre-1962. Like that was like what I was into. I had like so much conviction about it. And by the end of school, I think no one could tell me shit about, you know, what I was playing. At a certain point, my commitment to the music kind of overtook the outside perception of what I was doing. If you have reverence for it, then you start to value the actual music over self. That said, I hadn't fully solved that problem yet. And then when I started doing more beats and things, I had to like redevelop that all over again. So when I was like 24, a few years out of college, I started like releasing more music. That came with a whole new fear of rejection, right? It's different when you're just like playing on stage or playing in a rehearsal or playing in a jam session and you're afraid of people rejecting you or not liking you or not wanting to play with you. It's a whole other level when you start releasing music to the world and then it's permanent on the internet, right? So this is a story I've told many times, and I apologize if any of you have heard it. I used to like smoke a lot of weed and then watch masterclass videos or like workshop videos on YouTube. And it wasn't even like music. I would look up anything like writers, directors, athletes. I was just really into that. And I would just get like really fucking high and I would just like take notes on things, you know, which by the way, I highly recommend. Maybe not the weed part. It depends if you're into that. It doesn't matter. The point of the story is I found this video of Ray Bradbury, and he's the guy who wrote Fahrenheit 451, right? Is that the right number? So someone in the audience was like, how do you become a good writer? It was just like the most like broad question. And he had like the most elegant answer. You can think of it in terms of like input and output. Input, if you're trying to become a writer, would be reading a lot of stuff. And then your output would be writing a lot of stuff. There's the study part, and then there's the like practice and execution part. And, you know, he suggests you should read 10 poems every day, read a short story every day, read a novel every week. And then on the writing side, you should write 1 poem every day, you should write 1 short story every week, and you should write a novel every year. And in the first day, the poem you write is gonna be bad. The first week, your short story is gonna be bad. And in the first year, your first novel is probably not gonna be that good. But think about this, at the end of the year, you will have read 3,650 poems. You'll have read 365 short stories. You will have read 52 novels. You'll be well read. And then on the writing side, you will have written 365 poems. You could release a book of poems. You'll have written 52 short stories. You could release a book of short stories. And you will have finished a novel. But where it really gets interesting is after 10 years, at which point you will have read 36,500 poems. You're gonna be a fucking expert on poetry. You will have read, 3,650 short stories and 520 novels. You will be an expert on literature. And then on the writing side, you will have written 3,650 poems, probably one of the living great poets. You will have written, what would it be? 520 short stories and 10 novels. Like, and then he basically says, like, do that, and if you're not a good writer, come and let me know. But it's never happened. And I'm noticing, like, the question that you wrote is about, like, mixing and stuff. Like, oh yeah, if you have 365 beats, that's 365 things to practice mixing on. That's 365 things to practice everything from compression to EQing, whatever. Just like giving yourself this huge sandbox of stuff to work with. This is what made it for me. Like, I learned, like, oh, I need to find my version of that. Like, I need to make a beat every day. And I noticed that all the best producers do that. Terrace Martin, who's a friend of mine, he used to do 12 a day, which is insane. But then he found out that his like best number was 3. Like 3 was a perfect number for him. Pete Rock, really insane. This dude told me he was making 150 beats a week. And then he wrote fact in all caps after that. Which is just psycho. But he's Pete Rock. He's like the best hip hop producer ever. So, you know, everyone knows the Kanye West quote, which is, well, there's a lot of quotes that we're familiar with that man. But one of them is 10 beats a day for 4 summers, right? That was his thing. My Design does 3 a day. Knowledge told me he does 10 a day. Everyone's got their thing, but you know, for me, it was just like, can I just do one? Let me just do one. Because I'm like also kind of like doing the piano thing as well and whatever. I made an excuse for myself. Maybe I should have done more, but anyway. It could literally just be this, you know, maybe an 8-bar loop, another 8-bar loop, and another 8-bar loop. But basically I'll commit like 30 to 45 minutes on like a basic idea every day at least. But I think everyone, you kind of have to like develop your own thing. That kind of really shifted my mindset away from like some of the more superficial fears of making music to where it was just like, if I just like make a lot, then first off, it'll build my confidence. Secondly, that's an exercise in and of itself in overcoming that fear of rejection. That's just like exposure therapy. And by the way, one of my solutions was I'll just put out a song every week on SoundCloud. And 52 songs later, in 2016, I really didn't give a fuck what was going on the internet. And if you listen to those songs, like some of them are pretty fucking terrible. But I didn't care. And oh, by the way, like the algorithm's kind of great because if your song sucks, then no one's gonna hear it. So it's actually kind of a safe thing. So I released a bunch of songs that no one ever heard. And then by the end, I also built an audience. I like built this thick skin where I didn't care if people liked it or not. There's this Martha Graham quote. Martha Graham is considered the inventor of modern dance, as it were. Everyone needs to know this quote. It's so great. Now, what's funny about this quote is that it's definitely like dancer speak. Like if I said this with a straight face, it would sound so hokey. So I have to like preface it with that. There's a life force that is translated through you into action. And because there is only one of you in all of time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium and it will be lost. The world will not have it. And this is the important part. It is not your business to determine how good it is, nor how valuable, nor how it compares with other expressions. It is your business to keep it yours clearly and directly and to keep the channel open. You do not even have to believe in yourself or your work. You just have to keep yourself open and aware to the urges that motivate you. I love that. Like, you don't even have to believe in your work. I mean, you should believe in yourself, but you don't have to even believe in your work. You just have to keep the channel open and you have to continue to improve. Yeah, there is no implicit value to art anyways. It's all made up. Of course it's made up. It's art, you know? That's the whole point of art. You create it, you make it up. It's all made up. So it's not my job to sit here and say, oh, it's this good. It's a 10 out of 10 or it's an 8 out of 10. The way I evaluate my art is how me does it feel? Because again, my job is to keep the channel open. If we can shift the value of our work from what the external perception is, what other people think, even what we think about it, and more just like, is this me? Is this me? And am I doing this to the best of my ability?